Okay guys, welcome back for part B. So the next part is we're looking at the reaction with carbonates. So going through our materials for this one, we need our dilute hydrochloric acid again. We also need our test tube rack with test tubes, and again you'll have yours full with 6. We need a stopper for a test tube, and we also need some tubing with a hole that you'll be using. And you also need your taper and matches again for this section. And we also need what's called lime water and calcium carbonate or marble chips. So some of you might be lucky enough to have marble bench tops. This is basically just some crushed up marble, and so that's calcium carbonate. And we have some other carbonates that you might be using, so sodium bicarb, sodium carbonate and copper carbonate. You might be testing those as well. So we have to set up our apparatus, make sure you've got everything, and just double check that the tube you're going to be collecting your gas in is nice and dry. If it's not, make sure that you wipe it out with some paper towel, because it doesn't, you can't have any moisture in there. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is to put 2 or 3 of our marble chips, so our calcium carbonate chips, into the first test tube. So I've got 3 of those in there. And this is going to be called the reaction tube. So we have the reaction tube and we have the collection tube. So after that, we're going to add about 5 mils of our hydrochloric acid. So 5 mils is probably about 2 centimetres in our test tube if you're using one about this size. So I'm going to add that. After we've done that, it's going to start to react. So it's pretty much as soon as we add our acid. So very quickly after that, I want to put my tube and the stopper in the end, like this. And I'm going to have the other end of the tube right down the bottom of our collecting tube. So that's what's going to happen as soon as I've added the acid. Do that first. So adding about 2 centimetres of our acid, pop the lid on, and then quickly pop it into the second test tube. Excellent. So we're going to keep that in there for about 2 minutes, and it's going to have the gas in our first one come up through the tube at the top and sink down to the bottom of our collection tube. After about 2 minutes, we're then going to put our tube into our next test tube, which is about 1/3 full of our lime water solution. So while that's bubbling away, the gas that it's actually making is carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is a heavy gas, so that's why it's not escaping from our test tube. It's just going to be sinking right down to the bottom of that test tube there. So while that's happening, 2 minutes is probably almost up. What's going to happen next is that we're going to light the taper, and we're going to put the lit taper inside our test tube. So what should happen is the carbon dioxide doesn't contain any oxygen, so our taper won't be able to burn anymore, and we'll pop that into the test tube and the flame should go out. So I think that's probably about 2 minutes. So I'll change over our tube into the next test tube as my assistant comes along, and we will try and see if we can get a reaction to happen with our taper and our test tube. So we can pop that straight into our next one, and that will start bubbling away. Put the stopper in. Alright, and we'll see if this goes out. There we go. Oh. You can see it's struggling to stay alight in that carbon dioxide. Excellent. So that worked quite well. Alright. So what's happening in here is the carbon dioxide from our reaction is bubbling out into the lime water. So we're going to keep checking that, and basically step 5 in our instructions said that if it's turned milky, it indicates the presence of carbon dioxide. So the lime water, if you bubble carbon dioxide through there, it should start turning like a milky, cloudy colour, and we can see that starting to happen here, that it's starting to go that milky, cloudy colour. So that means that we do have carbon dioxide. So we'll keep that going. What's going to happen next is that you're going to try and do this reaction as well as a couple of others. So instead of just adding the calcium carbonate, so your marble chips to your hydrochloric acid, you try it with your marble chips as well as one or actually two others. So choose 2 others that you'll try and repeat this reaction with. And make sure that you fill out your discussion questions and keep nice and safe.